Jai Guru, everyone.
Jai Guru. And welcome to another episode of Autobiography of a Yogi, line by line. And it's a very special day because we have a special guest with us today. We have Shiraz. Welcome, Shiraz.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to join again.
Yeah, I wasn't lucky or fortunate enough to be joining you the last episode, so I'm very happy. I was very happy when I saw you on the call today. And we have Chris and Priyank, obviously equally as happy to see you both.
We're delighted to see you.
Yeah. And I feel very delighted to do this episode, which is the fourth part of chapter 15. And it's a really lovely episode. But before we jump into what's going to happen, I think we should remind ourselves of what happened last week. And actually, you could fill me in about what we talked about and what's covered.
Sure. So last episode, Sri Yukteswar kind of explains in a bit of detail what happened in the whole cauliflower robbery episode, essentially how he tracked down that crazy cauliflower man and how he, intercepted his thoughts and projected his own subtle thoughts into him. And then we kind of related to how we can all experience this when we have hunches, and really went into the whole science of radio and radio transmission and reception, which is really nice, and that in the future all things will be very obvious and it will be used often, which is the kind of century later kind of era that we are now. But I love that Guruji also brought in Charles Richet in again, and he was saying that just because they're familiar and that we're used to all these things doesn't necessarily mean that we understand them. And he's obviously going to go into a bit more detail now in this episode.
I have to say, I love this part of the book. It's one of my standout parts. I have many, but I really remember reading this part of the chapter the first time. So just a brief overview. We have a happening with the missing lamp and Guruji hoping that it's going to appear. And then we also have a second story with a very miraculous happening with Sri Yukteswar and God. So without much further ado, we'll go into it. So the missing lamp story. And this happens apparently only a few days after the cauliflower incident. And Guruji describes him being implausibly robbed of a cauliflower. And he was saying that a kerosene lamp couldn't be found anywhere. And he assumes and hopes that Sri Yukteswar will demonstrate that he knows where the lamp is, because now Guruji knows exactly Sri Yukteswar's powers and how he can use the mind. And Sri Yukteswar, being Sri Yukteswar, knows exactly what's going on. And he picks up on Guruji's hope that he's going to reveal where this lamp is. So he gives a little Leela in the Leela, an extra play for us. And apparently with this really exaggerated gravity, he starts questioning all the ashram residents about this lamp. And apparently this younger disciple, confesses and says, oh yeah, I used the lamp to go to the well in the backyard. And very humorously, apparently Sri Yukteswar gave the solemn counsel. And Guruji's got such a lovely way with words. He just paints a story so well. And I found it quite humorous. So he says, seek the lamp near the well. And Guruji rushes there and there's no lamp. And he's crestfallen. And he, returns to his guru, who's just laughing heartily. Again, we've got another hearty laugh from Sri Yukteswar, which is so lovely because you don't often hear of Sri Yukteswar laughing. And, he's not, fazed by his disillusionment. And it's such a good example of not taking life too seriously. Sri Yukteswar could have just said, I know what you expect of me, but I'm not doing it. But he thought, no, I'm gonna really have a bit of play here and have a bit of fun. And I think sometimes I obviously can only speak for myself, but it can be too easy to get quite very serious about things, especially on the spiritual path, because it's a very important thing, right? An important way of life. But Guruji's often reminding us, no, actually have a bit of fun too. It's a play. So Paramahansa Yogananda actually talks a lot about living fearlessly and not taking things too seriously. And we have a little section here which is from the Yogananda website. Shiraz, would you like to read it out for us?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So it goes, do not take life's experiences too seriously. Above all, do not let them hurt you, for in reality, they are nothing but dream experiences. Play your part in life, but never forget it is only a role. If circumstances are bad and you have to bear them, do not make them a part of yourself. What you lose in the world will not be a loss to your soul. Trust in God and destroy fear, which paralyzes all efforts to succeed and attracts the very thing you fear. All nature will commune with you when you are in tune with God. Realization of this truth will make you a master of your destiny.
Wow, beautifully read. Thank you, Shiraz.
I think those are beautiful words.
Well, yeah, it was so much gravitas, right? Yeah. And here, following with the story, Sri Yukteswar, he says, I'm not a fortune teller. It's too bad. I can't show you where it is.
Yeah, I love the twists and turns in this chapter, in this section as well, because from reading the last, the whole cauliflower robbery story and the science behind radio and everything, you kind of think, oh yeah, obviously what's going to happen here. They're going to magically tell everyone where it was, and yeah, all that stuff. But then it obviously takes a complete U-turn, and then so like the reader is left completely surprised and doesn't know what to expect. But it's also a play on the narrative as well, because at the start of this couple of paragraphs he said a humorous occurrence that took place a few days ago after I had been so implausibly robbed of a cauliflower. Like, cause there's what I take from the word implausible there. Like, it's not implausible for Guruji after he knows Sri Yukteswar and what he does, right? But it's implausible for the doubting Thomas reader amongst the general populace, because they will think, oh, that's unlikely, that's unplausible, isn't it? And then so like you're taking down this narrative, okay, then Sri Yukteswar can do that even though it is implausible, and then you get this complete twist and U-turn, and you think, oh gosh, what do I do now with my understanding of this chapter, this book, and this Param Guru of ours?
It's always surprising us, isn't he?
The lessons are so many layers deep, just as Priyank sort of highlighted there, that it's the sign of a true teacher, can teach in such a simple way, but in such a profound way. Like, we know just by this instance that Sri Yukteswar simply does have the power, that he was able to foresee the setting up of this joke, with the twinkle in his eye. And that was sufficient enough for then Yogananda in his wisdom to see the truth and as to why he did it. And it's also great for us to be able to not follow in these footsteps, like we learn by the perceived error of Mukunda's ways, right? So it's hitting so many points, but done in such a simple and smooth way.
And Guruji's so insightful. He doesn't just tell us the lessons; he shows us it, and we learn for ourselves. Like you say, Chris, that the lesson is here, and it's obvious what the lesson is. Guruji could have just written a couple of lines on the lesson to be learned, but no, he tells us the story, because we learn through seeing, right? We learn through almost going through that experience with him by reading it. So it's really beautiful.
So a fun anecdotal story. I have a friend of mine who realized that we have this power and realized that a certain intelligence body actually set down these supposed scientific methods of being able to locate items, people, whatever it might be. And this is being used for many decades in certain circles. And he became obsessed with this and actually taught me how to do this remote viewing, remote perceiving. We have this ability. And so we were doing some exercises, and it's quite remarkable what you can actually perceive. And I realized as I sort of was doing it, this was the beginning of my yoga journey with SRF and everything. It happened at the same time, coincidentally, that I was misusing these abilities. And he became sort of enraptured with the results that we were having. And to this day, he's actually doing it to try to predict sports events. And he was saying essentially to try to get me, I shouldn't laugh. I mean, it's, but it's quite funny, and I say to him, do you not see the power behind this, that this is our key to really unlocking a relationship with that is giving us the ability. But no, so even at the closeness to this ability, the delusion is still so strong within us that we could be pulled off in so many different ways. So Guruji is telling us, hey, this isn't to be used in a trivial way. There's much more for us to gain, and it's such a selfish way as well. Like, we have so much more to gain than some superficial, everyday use of this power. I thought I'd share that with you because it's it touched my life in some unusual way, this story.
And it's such a good example, isn't it, of not really seeing the real power behind the power, right? And I feel like Guruji shows us this in so many ways in Autobiography of a Yogi, with different saints who display different powers, like the one who could produce flowers and things like that. And while it's all beautiful and lovely, actually seek God for himself. That's where we're really headed, and that's where we should be focusing on. Even here, Sri Yukteswar's Guruji's saying that Sri Yukteswar wouldn't display his powers when he was challenged or for triviality or anything like that. And it just goes to remind us what you were saying, Chris. It's to be used when necessary and when it's ordained, but also by God.
Well, simply put, I might have fallen foul to the same lure that my friend felt.
Yeah.
I don't know of Guru.
Plus, you'd be a trillionaire as well right now, wouldn't you? You'd be buying us all homes. And
rich in money, but rich in spirit. Question mark.
Exactly. EDC.
Can I just mention the reference to Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, I missed that out because I wanted to segue seamlessly, but thank you. Yes.
Oh, you want to? The reason I mention it is because a lot of people know of where the London Centre is because of the Sherlock Holmes connection with the neighbourhood, and I don't know why I just seem to read the London Centre in this line, because why out of like all the all the kind of characters in literature he's in the autobiography, this is one that like is a bit meaningful to us, I suppose, because of the London Centre. So I read a bit more into that. I think especially for us as members of the London Centre. But I also like that this line that you just read, i.e. that he would never use his powers when challenged or for triviality. And I thought, shall I read that quote?
Yes, please.
Yes. So about that, Lauren has found a nice quote, which is, "Spiritual advancement is not to be measured by one's display of outward powers, but solely by the depth of his bliss in meditation." And I believe that I can't remember, one of our gurus said that.
I think we actually had it on an episode very
Yeah,
recently.
it was either Sri Yukteswar or Lady Marsha.
Yeah.
I'm confident. But I wondered about this because you know, the outward display of powers. I was reading the Second Coming of Christ, and the famous section in John 45:50 in Discourse 20 is written that, or he quote the famous line from the Bible, except ye see signs and wonders, you will not believe. And this is also on some of the autobiography editions. It's like the first quote in the autobiography. Chris says it was Guruji Yogananda who said that quote. But yeah, so I thought we'd read that section in reference to this quality of displaying miracles and powers. What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, Chris, do you want to begin?
Please. Except ye see signs and wonders, ye will not believe. Jesus knew that worldly mentalities have difficulty accepting their personal access to the merciful omnipotence. Thus, when asked by the nobleman to heal his son who was dying at Capernaum, Jesus observed wearily, except ye see signs and wonders, ye will not believe. It was a gentle rebuke. You are loath to believe in God's message of salvation sent through me, unless he first demonstrates his presence in me by a display of miracles that benefits primarily your temporal needs. We have another reading. Shiraz,
Yeah.
take us.
So God should not have to prove himself through miracles to earn the love and trust of his children. Each one, through his own free will and perfect accord, should make a voluntary choice of the heart to love God and to seek to know him. In the wisdom of a master, one should recognize the divine presence and be inspired toward God realization without the impetus of supernatural demonstrations.
Nevertheless, seeing that the nobleman's faith was sincere, Jesus sympathetically told him, "Go thy way, thy son liveth." These few words, supported neither by persuasive eloquence nor obvious evidence, were yet sufficient to satisfy the nobleman. He could sense the divine vibration of the healing power in Jesus. Thus, he believed the word that Jesus had spoken unto him, and he went his way.
So my question to you, Priyank, is, and everybody, what link do you see, if any, between this except you see signs and wonders you will not believe, and Sri Yukteswar not displaying his powers when challenged?
Yeah, I think that I'm really interested in this section of the Bible, actually, because it challenges the narrative that Jesus Christ was just willingly, openly displayed his miraculous powers and, just to awe and inspire and get devotees. But no, I think in this case proves that, like, he didn't seek to just, get devotees by displaying his miracles. Rather, they came to him with such faith and yearning that he had to kind of like satisfy their sincere prayers, as we're coming to in a bit later, because he kind of did it just because he kind of had to, because of the faith of this man, of this nobleman, and when he said, like, "Go thy way," it's not like he could have said that very differently. He could have, like, explained how much love God has for you and, like, all that, some nice devotional stuff. But actually, he's saying, the work you've come here is done. I've done. I've interceded, essentially. But that's not to say that was what he wanted in terms of, like, that's how he wants to get followers. But obviously, this nobleman must have had a pure heart, and he accepted, or not he accepted, his faith was kind of increased or enhanced through this whole parable, and hence this line has become so famous: "Except you see signs and wonders, you will not believe." Because those who don't need signs and wonders yet still believe are like the true heroes, aren't they?
Yeah.
Requires more faith, doesn't it?
Yeah. I wonder if, well, I'm sure they have, if there are those that have gone through life never seeing any signs or wonders, yet still believing.
Because you must have to have quite great good karma to see tangible signs and wonders, right? Or lots of past work.
And I think that looking to something like the Bible and the teachings of Lord Jesus, it can be perhaps easier for certain people to dismiss some of those events and say, oh, that happened in a different time, a different age, how were they recorded, and things might have been lost in translation or not properly recorded, whatever. But actually the power of the words that Jesus said and the message is so fundamental and core. And I think the greatest miracle of Jesus was not necessarily him displaying his spiritual powers, but actually the way he was able to forgive his enemies, so to speak, who crucified him. And those immortal words, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And that for me is like one of the highest demonstrations of divine love and spirituality.
So true.
Frank, just to your point, they would have had great karma or an immense desire, which we could talk about later. Desire,
immense willpower.
Immense willpower.
What's this for, Chris?
For the experience, for being in the interaction and things. Obviously, it would be a blessing. We're going to talk about desire later, so I thought I'd drop that in.
Very nice segue. But then also, I guess it depends upon our interpretation of what a sign and a wonder is. For some, yes, there could be this big vision that comes, but it comes in small ways too. I'm sure we've all had moments in our lives where we think, oh, that's definitely not a coincidence, that's God doing that, and that is a sign, that's a wonder to me. And he's here all the time in so many special small ways. We just have to notice it. Guruji always talks about improving our knowing, right, and our perception. These wonders are always happening, and I think that these little big things are what they do really help us. I think especially when you're new to the path, they can be a real catalyst for your fervency or your dedication or your realization of the reality of what's actually here.
This section of the autobiography is so intriguing, isn't it? I feel like he's keeping young Mukunda on his toes, even though he's like had this moment in cosmic consciousness. Sri Yukteswar doesn't want the world and Mukunda to pigeonhole what a master should and shouldn't be, should and shouldn't do, expectations, all that kind of stuff. And because every master is different and probably operates differently based on circumstances and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think in terms of pigeonholing saints, sometimes you might think that, oh, they can be very serious, and we think of them maybe in a certain way, they're something unattainable. But I like the way how relatable they can be as well. And in this section, Sri Yukteswar is really showing his humor. And it reminds me, Master says somewhere, a saint who's sad is a sad saint. I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, and it is relatable in some sort of way, isn't it? Like, especially as children, you'd play little tricks on your family members or your friends or whatever. It's kind of like that, like seek the lamp near the well, and then you go and it's not there. It's just funny, it's a joke. So yeah, I also like these kind of ebb and flows of this chapter. Even in this short section, we have quite a light, humorous story about this lamp, and then we come to Sri Yukteswar, and he's going to reveal this divine secret, and we're going to have a divine intervention as well. And Guruji says how the weeks sped by and they were very delightful, and that Sri Yukteswar was planning this religious procession. And he'd asked Guruji to lead the disciples across the town and the beach of Puri. And this is at a very hot time of the year, we could say. It happened in summer solstice, so it was very intensely hot.
The procession that he's referring to could be a number of different festivals, but often you fly the, and he's going to talk about this a bit later, but you fly the flag or the banner of the organization that you belong to. But I read that in Sri Yukteswar's biography by Swami Satyananda, there's a small section about doing this. Like it said, following the directive, this is of Sri Yukteswar, he said, Swami Satyananda says, following the directive of Lahi Mahashaya, he advised the householders to remain afar from the field of worldly duties for a few days, at least once a year, and was with that purpose he arranged for a 3-day festival in Puri's Karar ashram. So that could be, it could have been like a retreat as well that people were in, and also then as part of the retreat they kind of had a song and a dance or a festival, and there's well, we'll get to it a bit later, but there's other examples of the kind of festivals that it could be. We'll get to that bit later.
So before they set off, Guruji apparently is despairingly asking Sri Yukteswar, how can I take them across the sands? They're going to be very hot, and they're fiery. And Sri Yukteswar reveals a secret. And as Priyank pointed out, he says, well, it's now an open secret, not such a secret anymore. And he says that the Lord shall send an umbrella of clouds and you all shall walk in comfort. We've got a real prophecy, and again it's a reminder of Sri Yukteswar's union with spirit. He's in constant dialogue.
This question that Guruji Mukunda asks Sri Yukteswar, how can I take the barefooted students over the fiery sands? It's you could perceive it as a rhetorical question, in the sense that please intervene, Guruji. And then in that sense, he's like made a proposition to Sri Yukteswar and to God and gurus. And there's a famous quote which is, "Man proposes and God disposes." And in that, I think Sri Yukteswar has literally, in the next sentence, disposed of what Guruji wanted.
I wonder if Sri Yukteswar knew this prior to this conversation, or if it was an in the moment.
Knew about the rain, or knew that it was going to rain?
About the umbrella of clouds. Yeah. Well, we'll never know that. But what we do know is that Guruji was very happy with that, and he was organizing the procession in good spirits. And they began from the ashram with a satsanga banner. And there's a footnote here, and it said that sat is literally being, hence essence, truth, reality. Sangha is association. Sri Yukteswar called his hermitage organization Satsanga, which is fellowship with truth.
If you look at the picture in the autobiography of Sri Yukteswar's ashram in Puri, it's got some writing in Hindi, I think, and it's written on the side of the building, Yogoda Ashram, which is could also have been one of the banners, I suppose, that they would have had, as well as the one that's in the footnote here.
Something I've noted is that Master asks Sri Yukteswarji about this issue with the scorching sands and how to get over it for the procession. And Sri Yukteswarji says, "I'll tell you a secret, that you will walk in comfort." What's interesting, though, is Master completely trusts Sri Yukteswarji, his master, which I think it just shows how Master always was so trusting to Sri Yukteswarji, even though in the previous incident, Sri Yukteswarji said, "Seek the lamp near the well," and that actually didn't come off positively. That was like misguidance, if you will. But it was obviously to illustrate a point and tell a story. But I just find it really wonderful how much faith and trust and belief that Mukunda had in his master. And I think it also it relates to what we were talking about before, with people seeing and believing or not believing the signs, etc. So I just really admire the undying trust and faith Master had in Sri Yukteswar.
It's very perceptive, yes, and also a good reminder for us. Again, it's another lesson: trust fully in your guru. He has you. He's holding you. You'll be fine. And yeah, again, even if it turns out to be a bit of a joke, a bit of a leela, it's all the play, because when you really need him, when you really need something, he'll look after you. So there they are with this Satsanga banner. And it also apparently was designed by Sri Yukteswar himself, and it had the symbol of the single eye. And we have a footnote here about the spiritual eye. Chris, would you like to read that out for us, please?
Indeed. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Matthew 6:22, Bible. During deep meditation, the single or spiritual eye becomes visible within the central part of the forehead. This omniscient eye is variously referred to in scriptures as the third eye, star of the east, inner eye, dove descending from heaven, eye of Shiva, eye of intuition, and so on.
I think when I read this the first time, I was very intrigued about this spiritual eye. What is this magical thing? Because it gives us a little hint, but not, too much in depth. So I found from YSS a section on the spiritual eye for anyone who maybe isn't very familiar with what it is. Priyank, would you like to read that out for us?
Sure. Paramahansa often emphasized the importance of the spiritual eye, the center of intuition and divine perception in the body. The yogi beholds the spiritual eye as a ring of golden light, encircling a sphere of opalescent blue, and at the center, a brilliant white star. Paramahansa explained that when Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist, he saw the starry spiritual eye as spirit descending from heaven like a dove. Its wings represent the halos of blue and gold rays. Those who, by devotion and pranayama, life force control techniques, such as those of the Kriya Yoga science of meditation taught in the YSS lessons, pass through the starry door, commune with the Christ consciousness, Kutastha Chaitanya, that permeates all creation.
When prior to my yoga and the realization, let's say, I was not obsessed with symbols, but I definitely looked at symbols as some key of knowledge, right? I knew that there was some kind of conversation that I wasn't a part of, that these symbols represented something, and it always kind of irked me coming through my early 20s and teenage years. And now, having read a lot of the material in the lessons and a lot of Guruji's material, I saw mentioned that man worshipped symbols, and in past lives we may have worshipped symbols, over worshipped symbols. and the itch, let's say, that I had has been well and truly scratched. It's like such a blessing that we have in Guruji's teachings that he really explains it. He really goes into this fine detail that there is no need for a curiosity with the symbology of spirituality, that we should be focused on, this desire that he teaches us to have for God instead, not desire to know endlessly what the symbols mean. He's sort of satisfied that itch that I once had growing up, and sort of nudges us in the right direction. So very grateful for him.
Yeah, he's got a great way of doing that, doesn't he? So yes, everyone was there with those that were there with the banner. And Guruji says that no sooner had they left the hermitage than the sky became filled with clouds as though by magic. Although I'm sure we all feel and know that it was not magic, it was God. And apparently astonished ejaculations from the observers happened when a light shower fell. So the rain came and it cooled the city streets from the scorching seashore.
Just to complete the picture that you may all have in your minds of this image, there's a really good video actually of Guruji singing and doing kirtan in a procession, and that's in the Awake, the Life of Yogananda film, and I'll put a link to a clip of it on this description so you can have a look at it. It's Guruji singing I Am Om after he conducts that marriage ceremony of one of his disciples. But it's I kind of feel like this is one of those kind of same sort of images, but obviously Paramahansa Yogananda would have been a teenager or in his very early 20s. And also there's another video of the Karar ashram that some other devotee has put. I'll put a link to that as well. And in that you can see there's lots of pictures and of that by Sri Yukteswar, like his drawings and just various designs of various things all around his ashram, even there to this day. And this videographer has recorded all of this, and you can see lots of little symbols of the spiritual eye here and there, and paintings and things like that. So that could be what one of those could be one of the things that is being described here as the Sri Yukteswar's design of the spirit single eye with the telescopic gaze of intuition. And to whet your appetite, I'll probably make that the image for this thumbnail for this YouTube video, for the video and podcast episode, so you can have a look at that. But disclaimer, that's this is not this is some devotee that's published. It's not an SRF video.
Lovely, thank you very much, Priyank. Thank you. And talking of wetting, not quite appetites, but something wet will be the rain. And Guruji describes the drops as soothing. And apparently they descended during the 2 hours of the parade. So the whole time the parade happened, there was this lovely soothing shower. And exactly at the moment when the group returned back to the ashram, all the clouds and the rain disappeared. So very clear here of the miracle of God's hand. So after that,
by the way, being an Irishman from Northern Ireland, reading some of these texts, it's like very alien to me, because it's never that hot that you would ever wonder clouds. I love the detail, really, the description. I feel like I was right there with him.
Last time I was in Northern Ireland, Chris, the exact opposite of what happened to Guruji happened to me. It was supposed to be fine weather. I went hiking up the mountains on the south of Northern Ireland, and it's supposed to be lovely weather. It was nice, on the ground, and then I went up like a few hundred meters, torrential down. And I was not dressed for the occasion. I was so cold on the way back down that I had approached a stream, and when I touched the water, it was like really warm. I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. So I was like washing my face. It was like warm water. I was like, how is there a thermal spring in the middle of the hills in Northern Ireland? But anyway, so then I went to the next river, and it was the same level of warmth, and I realized my hands they're colder than the water. So I'm feeling warmth, but it should be ice that I'm feeling.
Wow.
or it was some insane power Guruji gave you. Heaven only knows. But I was boiling hot.
Wow. So the rain didn't stop you from taking your hike.
Oh no, I was going.
Wow. Priyank is so determined. Wow. See, a lot of people, maybe even myself, would have gone, the rain's come. Maybe I'm not meant to go.
Usually the wise thing to do, but you know me.
Not always. Depends. Oh. But now we have a very important part of this chapter, a very touching part, and it still just really touches my heart when I read this part. And I remember reading it at the time, and to me, it's another example of Guruji really bringing the true essence of God to our minds and hearts. You know, we often in the West we hear about, you know, very wrathful God, but you know, here he reminds us, as he always does, that God is love, and you know, he's very in tune with us, and he's there. So we will not try and kind of summarize what Sri Yukteswar says. We're actually going to read it word for word. So Shiraz, if you could please read this.
So it goes, "You see how God feels for us," Master replied after I'd expressed my gratitude. "The Lord responds to all and works for all. Just as he sent rain at my plea, so he fulfills any sincere desire of the devotee. Seldom do men realize how often God heeds their prayers. He is not partial to a few, but listens to everyone who approaches him trustfully. His children should ever have implicit faith in the loving kindness of their omnipresent Father." The loving God. Sorry, I think that was it.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. Yeah. And also we get a little insight here too to Sri Yukteswar, also displaying a similar sort of feeling that God feels for us. He felt for Guruji, because it wasn't that this rain was just going to come. He says, just as he sent rain at my plea. So not a Guruji's plea, but at Sri Yukteswar. So in that moment, the very brief moment, he pleaded, it seems from this very short part of the sentence, that he asked God to send rain on behalf of Guruji and the other devotees, and he did. And that's very touching too. You know, it wasn't just something that he had channeled, although that would be wonderful too, is that actually he had a part in that, and his heart went out to the devotees, and he asked God with that trust and that faith, and he delivered.
Yeah, really good observation, Lauren, actually, because he didn't actually need to say that he made he passed on Mukunda's plea to God, and God is the one that actually delivered. It's so humble, isn't it, to that he explicitly said it, you know, it's all God, you know, I'm just a channel or his instrument. So it's like the teaching kind of runs through all of our gurus, you know. Guruji teaches us to do this, but actually the gurus themselves are living this ideal.
And just as he goes on to say, but how seldom do we realize that God heeds our prayers? How often do you think, you know, little things like this coincide with exactly what we need from day to day, that we just have no clue? We just need to increase our awareness and receptive ability.
Yeah, and I'd add that it's probably both uttered and silent or unuttered prayers as well, because often we, like, you know, we have like prayers that we say before our meditations or at the end of our meditation, so they would be like uttered prayers. But then there's these unuttered prayers or silent prayers that we have like just in the back of our minds that we haven't really like actually said, you know, God, please do this for me, or do this for my family member, or whatever it is, but still somehow sometimes highly improbable, but it happens as well. So even silent prayers, as long as they're sincere, seem to be fulfilled. But this question of that he fulfills any sincere desire of the devotee, I was wondering what you guys thought of any sincere desire. What do you guys think? What could that type of desire be?
Yeah, so from my perspective, sometimes I find it difficult to think of a particular sincere desire, but just to more like ask for blessings. So bless people of this world, other beings, and just for spiritual upliftment in general. Otherwise, it's easy to get enmeshed in unnecessary desires and forget the goal of that we're all seeking God realization.
Yeah, I was going to say something very similar. Essentially, Guruji talks about the desire element that we have. We should replace all desires for the desire to know God and for God. And I suppose if we were to take that logic, as long as the desires that we were to have would be under the service of God, then they should fall under a sincere desire.
What about when you pray for yourself? Is that sincere? Was that a sincere desire?
If it's anchored in the desire for God, then yes. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm reading this word wrong, but I get this feeling when I read the word sincere desire that also it can mean something that is not rooted in selfishness or something quite humble. If you sincerely, like Guruji, he sincerely asked for the rain because he was, he didn't like the thought of the devotees hurting their feet.
Yeah.
And that feels quite sincere in the way that it's heartfelt, it's love, it's pure. And similarly, perhaps if we have desires or prayers that are pure of heart, they're not something to fulfill some earthly desire, then he will fulfill them too. Yeah, that's the feeling I get. It may not be right, but nevertheless, it feels kind of sweet either way.
Will you allow me to play devil's advocate a little bit?
Yeah, go on.
So if I pray for yes, Chris. If I pray for my own health, is that sincere? Is that a sincere desire?
You know the answer to that because you asked that to the nuns. What did the nuns say, Priyank?
I was asking you. You can't reveal the answer in asking a question. You have to tell me what the answer is.
Well, it depends why you want health for the body.
Go on, Chris.
Yeah, I think Lauren just said the answer to that. I was going to say if you're desiring health to be able to, for the purpose of fulfilling some negative outcome, for showing off or completing a job that doesn't serve the highest self, something along those lines, then probably not. But if you were to say, so I can fulfill my yoga practice, so I can inch my way closer to God, sometimes you need your health, right? So then yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting one, asking for health for the body, because whilst yoga teaches us to practice non-attachment to the body and to try and go above body consciousness, it's also important to have a fit bodily temple for us to practice our meditation and other spiritual practices as well. So I think it's about having the right attitude and right reasoning behind it.
Very well said, Shiraz. What do you make of that, Priyank?
Wrong, Chris. You're going.
The prayer that we do before energization exercises.
Yeah.
So, Heavenly Father, it is thou that that does. Sorry, I've tripped over myself here. Heavenly Father, just thought,
Does directly
Now
sustain our bodies.
bodies awaken within us, conscious will, conscious
Yeah.
health,
there you go.
conscious vitality, conscious realization, eternal youth of body and mind.
Abide in me forever.
Yep.
So the health is in there, right? And so it is a critical element, just to Shiraz's point. This is in the lessons is a critical element of our path and yoga.
Mm.
So what did the answer come to?
So the question, I was going to use that as my trump card, Chris. So if someone said no, no, you can't pray for health because that's fulfilling a selfish bodily desire, then I'm going to say, well, what about our prayer for energization, and then what about the prayer that that I just used in this Sunday service a couple of days ago, which was as I relax and cast aside all mental burdens, allow thee to express through me as perfect peace, love, perfect health, wisdom. So health is in there, wisdom is in there, so peace is in there. It's all good stuff. But so yeah, it would appear that it's fine, but I think it's still a grey area for me, because sister, the question to the nuns that I posed was, is it okay to essentially pray for personal health and healing? And especially when considering Sister Gyanamata's prayer, which is, Lord, change no circumstance in my life, change me. And then they said, the nun said, we were created perfect and meant to return quickly, but Maya gave us sorrow and pain. Wanting perfect health is a desire, and to attain that, we may need more incarnations. Don't fear anything, she said, only fear the fear itself. Otherwise, the fear becomes like a magnet, drawing the object of the fear itself. Have faith, Guruji would say, trust me. Alternatively, and then the other nun said this, alternatively, you can pray for perfect health, but then also add, but God and Gurus, you know best. And then she also said, and remember that a juicy illness, air quotes, a juicy illness reduces the grip of the ego as you surrender to the pain. Hence the soul can come to the full in its purity. So look at the bigger picture. Thy will be done and not mine.
Mm. We're all nodding.
Am I right in recalling that Master had an issue with his weight, and he went to Swami Sri Yukteswar about his issues, and similarly, I think Swami Sri Yukteswar went to Liri Mahashaya, similarly having an issue with his body. And these are avatars that we're talking about. These are God realized masters. So they had issues with their bodily temples, which they wanted to be resolved, and then it was through their faith and willpower and the master's blessing, of course, that they were able to have that healed, so to speak. So I think that's also a helpful thing to note.
True.
And to this point, guys, Guruji in his later years took on many issues with his knowingly, which was taking on the karma of devotees, and that was, he suffered greatly with that. He never complained about it, but it was reported that it was quite severe in his later years. So Guruji may have prayed for his health, but ultimately then it was purposeful, as Greg mentioned there.
There's also a footnote here in the chapter that I think we should probably read. Priyank, could you be able to read it?
Sure. He that planted the ear, shall he not hear? He that formed the eye, shall he not see? He that teacheth man knowledge, shall not he know? Psalms 94, 9 to 10. Really nice. I looked at the whole of Psalms, or section 94, and it's quite profound.
Mm.
It's a little bit tough reading, shall we say.
Yeah, it's got some lovely parts in it though, doesn't it?
Mm. Like
Um,
this. This is
yeah.
the gentle part of it, this one.
Yeah, yeah. Reminding us of God and his
Mm.
powers. So that actually concludes our episode for today. But we've got more to look forward to, of course. Chris, what's happening next week?
Indeed. We continue to look at the festivities that are being teed up here for us. So Sri Yukteswar throws a festival every 4 years at the equinoxes and solstices. So we get a bit of a description on the festivities that were taking place. We're going to talk about service. So touch on a similar topic to today. And curtains. So we'll deep dive into the Samaveda, which are the earliest writings on musical science, and the Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, as well. We're going to do deep dives in both of those with some nice readings. So join us there.
Very much looking forward to that. Well, thank you all so much for this episode, and thank you, Shiraz, for joining us today.
Thank you.
It's been
Thank you so much
really
for having me.
lovely to have you on here. So thank you. And we'll be back next week for another episode.
Thank you.